Alexander Wu, Amy Gary, Anna Taylor,
Here.
okay, Emery Round Sorensen,
Here.
Blake Tolliver, Brian Schultz,
Here.
Cameron McColgan,
Here.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Flegel,
Here.
Carter Gingle,
Here.
Dan Risser,
Here.
Emmanuel Amante,
Here.
Aaron Bowes,
Here.
John Mark Miller, Joshua Reynolds,
Here.
Kaylee Quinnen, Cara DeLucio, Kelly Snyder, Kyle Quinn,
Here.
Lakin Meter,
Here.
Lewis Richardson, Marie Meisner,
Here.
Maddie McIntyre, Megan Dalo, Najee Rodriguez,
Here.
Noah Robertson,
Here.
Patricia Barangi,
Here.
Rainier Foley Di Fiore, Raina Alexander,
Here.
Refugio Laura. Gotcha. Yep, got Refugio and John Mark. I got your messages. Ryan Lascalzo, Samantha Brown, Sarah Jordan,
Here.
Sadie Deshpande,
Here.
Sophia Palio.
Here.
Okay, I am here. Sydney Gibbard
Here.
and Sharu.
Here.
Okay, was anyone's name not called?
Hi, sorry, I just jumped on a little late, but I'm here.
No problem.
Thanks.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay.
All right, we will now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is adoption of the agenda. Are there any motions to be made?
If I could make a motion to move the confirmation of Executive Director of Rights and Equity from old business to before special presentations as I sent out in the email.
I see a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none, are there any other motions to be made? Seeing none, we'll move on to adoption of the meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion on the past general meeting minutes, we will now move on to confirmation of Executive Director of Rights and Equity with Reni. Oh, Representative Tolliver, did you have something?
Oh, no, I raised my hand by accident. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. All right, so we'll move on to confirmation of Executive Director of Rights and Equity with Reni Richardson. Reni, when you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes to speak and then 10 minutes for questions. And when you're ready, you may start.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reni. I'm a sophomore integrated Masters of Accounting student. And yeah, I'm from Cranston, Rhode Island. A couple of things I'm involved in is Don. I'm an entertainment captain. And then I'm also involved in the athletic pep bands here. I play saxophone. So I like a lot of music and things like that in my free time. I'm also in UPUA was the Deputy Director of Sustainability and Director of Rights and Equity. So I have a lot of experience with dealing with rights and equity and things in that nature. And other things I also did in the UPUA for just a short time, I was acting Executive Director of Sustainability. So I do have experience also being with the executive branch and in the cabinet for a short time. Other things that I'm also involved in is UPAC, University Park Allocation Committee. So I meet with them on Tuesdays as a member. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be a part of the UPUA and be an executive member. And just overall, my overall goals and plans for this department, since it is brand new, is to really get a strong foundation. So then when we continue on, we know what our mission is, our goals, and then we are able to actually make progress. And just having more integration with the representatives and being able to reach out, help execute your ideas. If you have something that you need us to do or help advocate for, knowing that the Department of Rights and Equity will be here to support you. But yeah, that's all I had.
All right. Are there any questions for Reni? And if so, please raise your hand. Representative Reynolds?
Hi, Renee. Thank you so much for coming. Just 2 quick questions. So what got you in? So you had mentioned that previously you had served in other roles. What got you most interested in this specific role for the UPUA? And also, as another sax player, how do you feel about jazz?
All right, so I'll answer the UPUA question first. So with me being Director of Educational Equity, I had to work a lot with the Office of Educational Equity on a lot of DEI efforts. So that kind of is why I felt that it was best for me to apply to be the Executive Director of Rights and Equity, just because I had that experience within the UPUA serving in that type of position. So this would just only be moving on up and helping out in a greater way, is why I chose to apply. And then for jazz, I do like jazz. I also like classical music. I could go on for a long time about the amount of music I like, but yeah, I do like jazz.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Are there any other questions for Reni? Representative Richardson?
Give me 1 sec, just migrating rooms. I guess my one question is, seeing as how we have plans to move the SORA program under this newly founded sort of department, how would you envision sort of that partnership? How do you foresee that we could maybe, make that partnership work better for the both of us? Maybe if you have any thoughts on that. It's kind of like vague, so yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good thing with this department, since it is brand new. We're able to figure out where we want to go. So meeting with people in SORA and figuring out what they previously done, what we can take over, how we're going to function is really important. So like this can go any direction we want it to go, which is the thing I like about this. So it's like we're pioneering this. So I think just as long as we're really making sure we're not stepping on toes and doing what we've always done with Sora and making sure that we're not going backwards, and just meeting constantly, talking about what needs improvements and things like that is how I think we can benefit from like the partnership, just making sure we're both being efficient under this new department.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Reni? Oh, speaker's on.
Yep, Steven Zing at large. Thank you so much for your application, Reni. My question is, if you had to pick a portion of student rights and equity that you think could be expanded or students don't know enough about, what section do you think you would expand and in what ways?
So I definitely think a lot of times we don't talk enough about people with disabilities. And I think definitely we can expand upon that within this department, really finding out ways we can be better advocates for students and being able to hold different educational events also. I know in the fall, when I hosted an event on inclusivity, a lot of people brought up that they didn't really think about microaggressions within that community. So really just making sure everyone's aware that there's not just like two types of issues out there, and there's so many more things layered on top of each other. So really making sure we like educate people on that.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Seeing no other questions. Reni, if you could actually leave the webinar and I'll shoot you a text when you're able to return, but thank you for taking your time to speak to us.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right. President McKay, if you'd like to explain your nomination. Before you head out, and I know you have to head out, it's not on the agenda, but it is very much protocol. I know, I mean, you're in, President McKay, do you want to do the swearing in? I know you're already in the executive department, but I feel for this position.
Yep, he would be sworn into this position too. It's really up to you. It's not on the agenda. We can also do it privately. There's nothing saying that we have to do it here at the assembly.
Since it is, Reni, do you have time, since I do know you have to head out?
I have time, like they know I'll be late.
All right. And I feel like for the sake of tradition and just for taking up to this position, President McKay, if you'd like to swear him in.
I'd be happy to. Reni, if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to faithfully uphold.
I promise to faithfully uphold.
The Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association.
The Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association.
And to defend the rights of each individual student.
And to defend the rights of each individual student.
While working toward the betterment of student life.
While working for the betterment of student life.
I shall perform to the best of my ability.
I shall perform to the best of my ability.
The responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me.
The responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me.
By the University Park Undergraduate Student Body.
By the University Park Undergraduate Student Body.
Through virtue of the office which I hold.
Through virtue for the office I hold.
Congratulations and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right. Before we continue down, I know we do have special presentations. I don't know, I don't think either of them are in yet, just because we did have to switch around the agenda. Just totally fine. What we're going to do is we'll just move on to open student forum and continue down the agenda until I see one of them pop in. But yeah, I'm going to keep my eye out on the panelists, but we'll keep moving down with open student forum. If you are a student here for open student forum, please raise your hand. give it a couple seconds. All right, seeing no students here for Open Student Forum, and I see that the lovely Brian has popped on. Brian, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate hearing from you every single time. But yeah, you'll have 5 minutes to speak and then 10 minutes for questions. But again, we're very appreciative to have you here.
Sounds great. And I'm going to share my screen if that works for you. Let me bring up the slideshow. Okay, are you all seeing it? Cool. Yeah. Awesome. So it is great to be back. Great to be back in another capacity. There is way too many slides that I'm going to show here, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them. For those that again have met me in the past, it's great to see you again. For those that might not have had interactions, I'm Brian Pitchkowski. I currently serve relatively new in this role as the Assistant Vice President for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Student Affairs. And so really excited to be here again. Previously was the director of our Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity at Penn State. And so again, really excited to be here. Want to share a little bit about the role, but also my philosophy. Again, it's been roughly 5-6 weeks in the role. So there's lots to be done, as I think many of you know, and many of you have advocated for, but I'm excited again to partner with you. And so I know, and actually I want to give kudos to the welcome bags and the distribution that I heard was happening in the hub today. So great job, UPUA. Some of you who know, who is doing that. So great job. But again, the impact of partnership, I think, is going to be critical. And hopefully you'll see that through some of the comments I share tonight. So I'm just going forward here. So just, some of you may be familiar with what the position is, but, again, I am, stepping into the role. Peggy Laura retired in December, and Peggy had left a monumental history at Penn State. I'm grateful to follow in those steps, but thinking about, who's in this portfolio, who do I have direct, connections and support of, the Paul Robeson Cultural Center, the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity, the Gender Equity Center, which is really dedicated to issues of power-based personal violence, the Center for Spiritual and Ethical Development, the largest multi-faith interfaith center on a college campus in the country, adult learner programs and services, as well as our collegiate recovery community for those navigating substance use and abuse. And so, those are the core areas, but the scope of this work, one of the things I say often is this work can't be limited to the diversity and inclusion structures. This work has to be embedded in all that we do in the student experience and across the faculty and staff experience. And so again, the scope is, direct support of these units, but also I think the work in collaboration with the rest of our colleagues in student affairs and in academic units. As we think about those units, many of you may know and have interacted with many of them. We think about education, support, advocacy, and outreach. If we think about us as a whole, these are, many of the core tenets that we are providing our student communities. One of the things that you may be familiar with as well, and so, I know many of you took part in the hiring process, and so some of this may be repeat to you, but I think some of these core values are what I'm hoping will guide us together in this work and future, representation of UPUA and all of our governance organizations. But I really look to Paulo Freire's concept of praxis, which is informed action. And so, but when you think about that, it's really a commitment to human well-being, a search for equity, and a respect for others. And so, praxis is risky. People, it requires that people make wise and prudent practical judgments, in how to act in specific situations. And when we think about that and we think about the student experience, when we apply praxis, it's, the applied, the committed action, there's various levels. And so when we think about the student experience around diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's absolutely the individual experiences, the ways that we interact with others, the larger organization or the intersection of organizations and how we form community, but also all of the policies and other things that also, incorporate and intersect with experience. And so those are some of the things that I think as we move forward in this capacity, we're going to be examining. And culture change, sadly does not happen overnight. But again, I think we can make, change as we go forward. And again, I think the critical partnership is there. Other pieces that will guide, there's various elements of student success. Many of you hear a lot about student success, but there are diverse infrastructures around student success. And so when we're thinking about the student experience, we really need to look at all these different buckets. And please don't feel like you need to take notes or any of that. I can share this with Lexi and others after tonight. So, but I do want to, give a high level overview of, some of the vision and what might inform our shared work. So when we think about, again, safety, I know there's been lots of conversations about what is safety right now. And so what does that mean? And I wanted to address that. I know we have Zoom bombings, we have, the baggage, the emotional weight, the burden that folks, especially from marginalized histories, experience and marginalized narratives. And so when we think about our environment, what are the aspects of that environment that will, again, allow us to be free from anxiety and again, free from threat or fear. And so there's a lot to that. And so as we think about, colleagues in student affairs who have been working on Zoom bombing pieces, we know that there's other cultural and systemic things that we need to address. And that's, we hear a lot about diversity, inclusion, and equity. I just have some of the core ways that we define them up here at Penn State. I hope to move us, along with our colleagues in student affairs and our student communities, our shared government structures, to really a focus on belonging that incorporates diversity, equity, and inclusion, but belonging being really, the enforcement or, that we create a culture that is purposeful, that we think about the equity, we think about the inclusion, we think about the diversity, but belonging, again, is really about the experience. And so you'll see lots of different quotes in the presentation, but again, belonging calls us to a different type of praxis. It's about being vulnerable, and that's hard. I think it's hard for all of us, especially in environments that don't feel safe. As we, there's different models that I think I will look to, and I would love to partner with all of you in some of these conversations. But ACPA, one of the professional organizations around student development, put out this model, a strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization. And so, the center is love. It's about community. It's about it's honoring history. It's recognizing that, looking to the future, but all of these different components. And there's a much bigger thought paper that's connected to this that I think can really inform how we think about what's next for us and what's next for the generations of Penn Staters to come. When we think to student affairs is complicated. We are huge. We are not a small organization, but that doesn't mean we can't make strides for change. And so, yes, we have the Cultural Center and Program Collective that I address, some of the direct supervision pieces, but which all do student engagement, which all do staff engagement, but the campus-wide context, our Commonwealth colleagues, and a variety of partner units, that this work will not be successful unless we collaborate and connect. Over the last 6 weeks, these are some of the questions I've been working with through colleagues. So I've been meeting a lot with our academic colleague units. I've been working with some of the caucuses and other student organizations representations to really think about what's needed, what's been happening, and really listening. What does meaningful change look like? What are the goals and outcomes? How are we going to know if we're successful? What are the gaps right now? What are the gaps next fall? We've been navigating a global pandemic. There's a lot to go forward with. What are the actions we need to operate and implement as we move forward? As we think about the pillars of this work for student affairs, collaborative staffing, professional and student education, programming and support, student organization and community support. Again, the shared governance structures are critical. Visibility and community collaborations and communications, and assessment and reporting. We've been having lots of these conversations. I know Barry's on the call. We've been thinking about how do we really promote our intercultural, multicultural, polycultural organizations and bring that in a pathway from pre-Penn State experience to after Penn State. And so there's lots of those conversations, and again, led by many of you and many of your colleagues, your students across our communities. As we think about student affairs, I hope we can really strengthen our advocacy, support, and education, build a DEI portfolio and presence in student affairs, enhance our current staff DEI skills in the service of our students, as well as improve our assessment capacity to know what we're doing and what's going well and what's not. All going back to praxis, so health and well-being, belonging and community justice, and organizational innovation and engagement. So As we go forward, again, I've said lots about collaboration. We need to understand our privilege, listen. Again, one of the things as a white identified, cisgender man, there's pieces of privilege that I'm going to have in every context. But again, where are the places I need to listen? Where are the places that we are going to center those who are on the margins? Focus our justice-based conversations on those who share identities, amplify, not overshadow. Realize we're going to make mistakes, and remember praxis. Again, that's my core. One last note on culture change. It doesn't, change, because we desire to change it. We need to work together to do that. And through that's with our student affairs colleagues. That's with our, university-wide support, global programs, affirmative action, educational equity, OSMPER, our Office of Sexual Misconduct Prevention and Response, along with our academic colleagues. So all of our colleagues in our academic and administrative units invested in this work. And that's it. I told you it'd be a whirlwind, but I would love to welcome questions, thoughts, whatever you would like to ask. So.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions for Brian? Chair Mishler?
I guess I'll go. I didn't know if Lexi would call me. Hi, Brian. It's always such a pleasure to hear from you. Thanks so much for coming in and speaking with us again. So my question is, what is your top priority in your new role for the next year?
Learning how to juggle. But in all reality, I think, for me, again, in student affairs, I have the honor and privilege of working directly with students. And I think that for me is going to be critical. What I've been sharing with folks is coming into this role during a global pandemic is a challenge. Any kind of transition is a challenge. But I think also many of you right now are changing, leadership. And so coming into a new role, meeting the existing leaders, but also really thinking about the sustainability and transfer of leadership and how I can be most helpful as well as our colleagues across student affairs. And really, again, we have data. We have a lot of data. How does that connect to the student experience? How are we thinking about the fall? And also really bringing together our DEI units in a different way. I think we are still relatively new in this structure. This position's only about 3.5 or 4 years old. But I think that too is, in thinking about how our students operate, our students are not just queer, our students are not just, Black identified, people of color, or, again, survivors of sexual violence. They are all of that. And so, one thing I've said often is, our students don't care where we directly report or where we are in the Penn State organization. They want to receive support. And so how are we better preparing ourselves, and how are we thinking about this as colleagues, as all centered in equity-minded practice? And so I think there's a student focus, but also an internal organizational focus for us in student affairs right now and going forward.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Brian?
You may hear my children giggling in the background, so it wasn't giggling at any of you.
Oh, no worries. Any other questions? All right.
Well,
seeing none, I actually have a question for you.
Absolutely.
Besides like top priority, I think, what are you most excited for? I think obviously in this role and knowing you're very passionate about it. I just want to know what you're most excited about in like next couple of years to come.
Yeah, I'm a true nerd or geek at heart, I think. And so, looking at equity-minded practice, and the other piece is, a lot of this is human work, it's systemic work. I'm a geek about systems and wanting to know how our systems work, where our systems can be adjusted, how, even small changes can make monumental differences in systems, but it's also the human buy-in. And so, I think that's it's how do we foster community, build trust, and allow us to move forward, even in the most dire of circumstances. I think we're exhausted right now. And I think, that goes across the board. But this work is still so vital to the day-to-day of folks. And I think that's the reminder to me, is that I've entered into this work because it is human work. It's about our community. And so for me, that's probably the most exciting piece to really, live and learn and, again, be corrected on that course of action too, because I think that's part of the journey. But again, it's really working with all of you, GPSA, CCSG, World Campus Student Government, and really thinking about what's next and how are, that's the exciting part. We don't need to be stagnant. We don't need to do the things we've always done just because we've done them. And that's the innovation piece for me. How can we allow not only our students to innovate and be creative, but also our staff and think outside the structures that we've always known. So that for me is exciting. That for me is really, I think the really exciting pieces of this role going forward.
All right, thank you so much. And with that, I'll close the floor. Thank you again for coming in and taking time out of your Wednesday night. But yeah, I'll hope to see you again. I feel like we always see each other anyway, but thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. And again, thank you all. If there's anything that I can do, bjp226@psu.edu. So again, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and take good care. Stay well. Bye.
Thank you. All right, we will now continue down with line item B with special presentation from Michael Miller for students teaching students. Michael, when you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes to speak and then 10 minutes for questions, but you may start whenever you'd like.
Awesome, thanks so much. Can everyone see the presentation? Perfect. Awesome, happy Wellness Day Eve to everyone here. My name is Michael Miller. I am a senior here at Penn State. I study design, but I'm here today to talk a little bit more about a program that I actually spoke about a year ago here at UPUA, which is called Students Teaching Students. And kind of what I'm talking about is the impact that we've had over the past year. So since I presented last year, we have equipped and empowered 21 student instructors from across Penn State's University Park campus to teach 16 different courses, of which 175 plus students have benefited from. So this has been a really awesome opportunity. I've gotten the advantage to work with so many other students, but I'd love to tell you a bit more about how we do it, the ideas behind it. Yeah, so kind of getting into the idea behind students teaching students. Essentially what we do is we equip students to design and teach their own official credit-bearing courses, which kind of piggybacking off of what Brian was talking about is something that is definitely challenging the foundations of how we think about things. So if you think about how students are utilized or engaged outside of the classroom, every single year, students raise millions of dollars to fight pediatric cancer. Students can conduct award-winning research outside of the classroom that can help save lives. Students can win national championships. And even here in UPUA, students can advocate, oh, sorry, wrong picture. There we go. Students can advocate for each other. And so it begs the question, if students are doing all these incredible things outside of the classroom, why are they taking a passive role inside the classroom? And so our program essentially says that students are doing all these things and they also can teach. And so to take a look at how our program started, we got started in spring of 2020, and we had 4 different courses. We had 7 student instructors, and it spanned all different ideas, from teaching a course about Kanye West to teaching a free LSAT course. And so we started off strong, and then COVID hit. And COVID hit several months into that spring semester, as everyone knows. And, I think we kind of had 2 different options. We could, let that tank the program or just push through. And I think it was super, super cool to see how strong the student instructors handled that. And while many full-time professors were struggling to use Zoom, our professors, student instructors took a really awesome approach and really empathetic to students because they were in their shoes. And so Last fall, we had 4 courses again, which was an incredible thing to continue on despite the pandemic. And then this spring, we actually doubled that up to 8 courses. And then moving into this coming fall, we're looking at around 10 to 12 courses, which is also almost doubling from the last cohort. So this is a really, really exciting time for us. And just to give a glance at where we are across the university, of the 12 academic colleges, we currently exist in 5 of them. And we're continually looking for new opportunities, and it's really driven by students. So students in different colleges will propose courses, and that's kind of how it gets started. But to kind of look at some of these courses, this one here is championed by Annie Liu and Sam Rothermel. And both of them are music geeks, and they love science. And they looked around at these different courses, and they saw how science was taught like science and music was taught like music, but there really wasn't a lot of crossover. And so they created a course that looks at the science and the psychology behind music, how it affects us, and what that means. Next, UPUA's very own Nora Van Horn created a course with Maddie Mitchell that's actually a 3-credit course that utilizes their sustainability experience to teach others how they can be sustainable, giving them really actionable steps. And that's a really awesome course. And then there's also students like Camilla. Camilla is an international student from Colombia, and she saw how drug cartels were really being misrepresented in the media through shows like Narcos, and she decided to build a course that actually looks at what drug cartels actually look like in Latin America and how it's affected communities like her own. And so students are using Students Teaching Students as a platform for sharing their experiences, sharing their knowledge, and sharing things that aren't available currently in the curriculum, and they're able to use it not in competition with current courses that faculty are teaching, but actually to supplement holes in the curriculum, which is a really cool thing. So how does this all happen? Well, there's kind of 3 main steps. So first, students will conceptualize this, and they'll look around and say, hey, like, could I do this with a co-instructor? And so that's a really exciting way that you can get multiple students involved in the same project, someone who has a similar interest, experience, background, or someone who can share the load with you while contrasting your perspective. And second, applying to the program. And so to do this, you have to get a faculty champion to come alongside your course and support it. And that course actually gets proposed through their department. They end up helping you out throughout the entire process. To apply, you need a draft syllabus. You have to fill out some application questions, and then we also run a conduct check, just like all of you had to go through to be in UPUA. And then we interview you, and we're going through that process now for the courses for the fall. And kind of getting into this building part, what that looks like is once you're accepted into the STS program, we pair you and your co-instructor and your faculty champion with someone from the Schreier Institute for Teaching Excellence, which is an incredible resource for helping students create courses, and also they're the ones who help faculty create courses and get feedback on their courses. And also an STS student contact, so someone like me who can help them through the process. And so you have this bubble of support the whole time that you're in the program, building a course, and then you propose your course through your faculty champions department. And if it gets approved, then the STS program helps you market your course as well. So wrapping up kind of what's next for the STS program, what we're looking to find a sustainable academic home. Kind of how the process works is it goes through your faculty champions department, and they have to get it approved through their department in their college. And it's a really difficult process. Some departments really are like, what the heck is this program? And others have fully embraced us. So that's been difficult. And we're looking for ways to get an individual listing so courses can just go through our program and become listed. So I know that's something that will have to be worked out through the Faculty Senate. If you're someone who might be able to help with that, I'd love to speak to you about that. And second, we are growing our team currently. So we're a very small team. We have 4 people. And as we're growing our courses, we need to grow our team and our support for those courses. So there's 2 main positions right now. These are exec board positions. One is our director of marketing, and the second is our director of finance. And we would love to get ambitious people on board who want to fill those roles. So that's kind of where we're at right now. If you have your phone with you, you can follow us on Instagram. We do follow back. And second, if you're able to share this program with students, faculty members, friends who you think would be interested, it would be incredibly helpful for us. And I think that it's a great opportunity for advocating for student voice, which is what you guys do all the time. So thank you very much. And I'd love to take questions that people have.
Yeah. All right, we'll open up the question portion. Are there any questions? If so, please raise your hand. Chair Mishler?
Hi. Thanks so much
Hello.
for coming in. I really enjoyed the visuals. They were so engaging. So my question is, what is the one thing do you think that Penn State students really need to know about students teaching students?
Yeah, I would just say that we are here to advocate for students all the time. And it's not just in building courses. And I think that's something that we showed this past summer. The Trump administration had enacted a policy that essentially would prevent most international students from being here in the fall. And we quickly put out an initiative that listed like every single course at Penn State that they could take, because the requirement was that they had to take at least 3 credits of in-person classes. Anyways, got shared like thousands of times within the Penn State community. Thankfully, the policy was rescinded after about a week. But I just think people should know that our program is about caring for students, advocating for students, even if that is outside of the realm of building a student-led course.
All right, I'm going to go to Avinash first, and you should be able to talk.
Hi, Michael. Thanks so much for presenting tonight. Big fan of STS. I wanted to ask a quick question, 2 parts. Looking past, what was your favorite course, or like one that you would have taken that you'd be most interested in taking that was already offered? And then on the opposite end, in the future, where do you want STS to be in 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think looking back, we've had so many awesome courses. I think a course that really was super interesting to me was a course about Kanye West, and that was actually in our very first semester. But I think we have tons of different courses for, you know, everyone from some people who love Greek mythology to people who love horror writing to, you know, running the whole gamut. So yeah, for the second question, I think our vision for STS is really building a program that when we come back to campus in 40, 50 years, we see that every student will be taking or teaching a student-led course. And we really see this as a way of democratizing education, putting students from kind of the passive role that they're in the classroom right now into an active one. And we think that that's the future. So that's how we're building for it and strategizing for it.
All right, Chair Jordan.
Sarah Jordan at large. Thanks for coming in. My question for you is, what's one of like the biggest challenges you've encountered either like this year, last year, throughout this whole process?
Yeah, so there's definitely been a lot of challenges, but I think the biggest challenge by far is just getting department heads and administrators on board with things. We found that there's really just an either or reaction to our program, which is we love this program. We see how it gives students agency in the classroom. We see how it's not competing with our faculty, but rather supporting them and using them in a creative way. And then there's also, we don't know enough about this program. We're scared. And so that's kind of a pitfall that we've fallen into, and something that we're still working out. We love making relationships with faculty members, with department heads. But it is difficult. Some people are just a bit close-minded to the idea.
All right, President McKay.
Hey, Michael, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about STS. As you were just talking about, you ran into quite a lot of trouble getting some department heads on board. And obviously we, as the student government, work pretty hand in hand with organizations and students like you in trying to get a lot of those things passed. how can we as the UPUA help you and the STS program succeed over the next year? If there's one thing or two things maybe that you'd ask your student government to do.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And thank you guys for having me tonight. I would say, honestly, probably the biggest thing you could do might not even be in an official capacity as a student government, but it's learning more about the program and sharing it with your friends and your faculty members that you know. I think that can be such an incredible way to grow the program and build those connections and relationships with faculty members. So I think that's one thing. I think another thing would be helping us just continue to become a sustainable program. That's really our biggest goal, and that's what we look at when we're making any decision. And we made a lot of decisions differently because we're like, you know what, this might be good for the next 6 months, but 10 years down the road, this will make things a lot more complicated. So I think, again, helping us find a mechanism outside of, and I don't think I mentioned this, but the way that we get it approved within specific departments is as a special topics course. So I think ways that we're able to do that kind of outside of the confines of individual departments, but whether there's an STS course listing that could be created, obviously that would probably take several years through the Faculty Senate, but I think that's a process we'd love to get started within the next few months.
All right, and with that, are there any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Michael, for coming in and taking time out of your Wednesday night. Feel free to stick around, but also feel free to hop off if you need to. But again, thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks so much, Lexi.
Yeah, of course. All right, we will now move down the agenda with a report by the President McKay. President McKay.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank Brian and Michael again for joining us tonight and sharing all that they're up to. There's quite a lot of information that they shared, so I hope that you did take down some of their contact information and that you'll reach out if you have any questions. If you need some help getting in touch with either one of them, please reach out to Lexi, myself, or Stephen, and we'd be happy to put you in touch. I also want to congratulate Reni and thank all of you for entrusting him to help lead the Department of Rights and Equity. As I mentioned, I think that he's truly just an awesome guy, and I really look forward to working with him in an official capacity. As Michael hinted to, we have a wellness day tomorrow, and I really hope that you'll find the time to relax and de-stress. If you have professors who might be assigning, a little bit too much homework or other things like that you might be concerned about, feel free to reach out to Patty as the head of the Academic Affairs Committee. And we'll be sure to get you the kind of resources and connections that you need to at least, make sure that your voice is heard. I can't say that all of those professors would be acting out of an academic policy or in violation of such a policy, but we'd be happy to help you at least ensure that that's the case and that there's nothing else that we can do to help. There were a few executive orders that went out this week that I want to make sure are on your radars. I've essentially asked the Records Department to begin the creation of a history of student governance at Penn State University Park website. This is a pretty much a year in the making, but a program which would house a lot of the good work that you and all of the assemblies prior to you, as well as the iterations of student government here at UP, have been able to do, including biographies of different members, updates of where some of those members are now, as well as things like resolutions, agendas, if they're available, meeting recordings, all of those things housed in a big archive. That's ultimately the goal there. And then also creating a 2020 Vision to the Past time capsule. This time capsule will be a university-wide initiative which invites organizations across University Park to contribute both handwritten letters to essentially themselves when we'll open it up in the year 2050, 30 years after the initial spread of COVID-19 here in the United States. This is an initiative that several administrators were particularly interested in. And so I hope that even you'll find an opportunity to write something to you or to, sheesh, that'll be the 45th Assembly. So perhaps get writing, and there'll be more information about how you can contribute to it in the coming days. One I also want to put on your radar is essentially going to establish a UPUA award for the student body, highlighting the positive impacts that they've had on Penn State, specifically in bringing about positive change for the student body. There'll be at least one for an individual student and one for organizations as a whole. The USG used to do something like this where we would, I think it was called the Academic Excellence in Academic Advising is what they'd called it. So a little different, but all the same, we're trying to get some better outreach with the students. And I hope that this could be a good way to highlight that good work. I also want to put it on your radars that Rutgers University announced yesterday that they will be divesting from fossil fuels. In particular, they announced that they will both, I'm trying to pull up the sheet here. Cease all new investments in fossil fuels, divest from passive index funds with fossil fuel investments within 1 year, and reinvest in more environmentally friendly versions of these indices. Rutgers will also actively seek new investment opportunities in renewable energy and energy efficient categories that deliver competitive rates of return, and exit all currently held private fossil fuel investments within 10 years. This is huge for any Big Ten school. I don't know if you've had the chance to see that, but a lot of the work came following some actions that Penn State has already in conversations with student government leaders, essentially committed themselves to working towards, in some ways, finding how they can respond to the climate action petition, which was released about this time last year. I understand that there are some representatives who are working on, in collaboration with the Department of Sustainability, a piece of legislation that would call for similar action by the Investment Council and the Board of Trustees. You should know that, should come as no surprise, but you have my full support in that. And I hope to bring it up with the board leadership if that were to come to the assembly floor and pass. You should also know that Rutgers University's Student Assembly, RUSA, it's alphabet soup around here, had a referenda that they put on, a referenda as a student body-wide vote that doesn't elect a president, but instead decides an official opinion. You should know that there's a piece in our Constitution that allows you to do the exact same. And in fact, I would highly encourage you, considering that we have an election coming up, to consider placing a similar referenda question on the ballot, which is something that, to my knowledge, you can still do, but you would have to do as an assembly. It's not something that I can just do. It's something I think you have to vote on. So things to keep in mind, do some research, look into it. And if that's something that you think is possible, I highly encourage you to bring it up. You can find all of these things and a little bit more in our third press conference, which was held yesterday. And we had a member of the Daily Collegian join us, which was exciting. You can always find those on our website, but I think I'm going to start tweeting them out as well, just to ensure that people can see them in a more consistent manner. I also was reached out by the president of the Black Caucus, Nyla Holland, about bringing forward a similar bill to, it was 3414, which we had last year, which funded community group graduation stoles, essentially asking if we would be able to do something very similar. I've been in conversations with Najee and Lexi about bringing that forward this year as well. Again, that should come as no surprise that I think it's a great idea and I fully support it. I hope that it ultimately is passed by the assembly, but if you're interested in that legislation specifically, please reach out to Chair Rodriguez. Executive reports, I'm going to email out this evening. I'm sorry again that essentially we've just been backed up. I have them from this week and from last week, but essentially everything that has been pertinent to the assembly I've been sharing with you directly. All the same, I want to make sure that they're sent to you. And then also, there will be an executive ad hoc meeting this Saturday afternoon and possibly other dates as we wrap up the 15th assembly, just to ensure that any last minute changes to the executive branch and its structure are sort of cemented before we say farewell. We only have 2 meetings left, so let's make the most of it. I'm done talking, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you happen to have them. Thanks so much for all of your hard work as always.
Are there any questions for President McKay? All right, seeing no questions, we will now move on to my report. I wish I said it last week, but I'll say it this week. Happy Women's History Month, and this past week it was there was Happy International Women's Day. So I'm very excited to celebrate this month, and I know that I think our communications and Zach and I are working on something to celebrate that. It'll probably be coming out a little later in the month. You'll probably see some familiar faces, but that's all I'm going to say. This past week, we had a meeting with university leadership, a lot of honestly great conversation between the student government and the university leadership. Obviously, we discussed kind of the intricacies / like issues with the Zoom bombing, what the university can do to prevent them, kind of some of the barriers that are in their way, but something that not necessarily that they can't do, but they're doing everything that they can, essentially. So having a conversation around that. We also brought up the Carbon Neutrality Task Force, seeing if there is a timeline and seeing where that is. Receiving good news in terms of sexual misconduct reporting in terms of the data, and that if you'd like to talk about that with Zach and I, we'd love to talk to you as well. Let's see, and yeah, so there was a great discussion. I believe that was Tuesday. So if there's anything that you are curious about in terms of those conversations or how those conversations work, I'd love to kind of loop you in. Thanks to Chair Mishler for the Breathe Together workshop and kind of advertising that throughout UPUA. I very much enjoyed it. It was kind of a good hour to take a break. And I'm also looking forward to the anxiety workshop that is tomorrow. I will also be there at 2 p.m. if anyone else will be. But thank you so much for Student Life and Chair Mishler for that. I appreciate the workshops that are coming up this coming week. And yeah. I'm continuing meetings with Chair Rodriguez and the banner campaign that should be kind of rolling out at the end of the summer. I'm very excited to see the progress going towards that and the openness towards it. I think a lot of different entities at Penn State are excited to see that come to fruition. And I'm finally excited to see it come to fruition since COVID did put some barriers up in terms of putting that out. And as President McKay had mentioned, we do have 2 assemblies left. I'm kind of wrapping up transitional material, which is so weird to say. With that, let's make the most of it. I know it's been on Zoom and I know it hasn't been our normal setting, but just to kind of finish out the 15th Assembly strong, I'd love to see your faces, as I always say. Yeah. And as for continuing on in the week, I'll be attending the SBAP Roundtable meeting on Friday, and voting will begin this Friday in Student Fee Board. And overall, just enjoy your wellness day tomorrow. Please go outside. It's supposed to be super beautiful. Take a well-needed break from this past semester and continuing on. And overall, shout out to, this is very random, but shout out to Academic Affairs. A lot of students have been curious about how they can kind of report their professor, report an issue with their professor in terms of wellness days. And I've been able to help out a lot of students with the resources that AAC has provided. So thank you guys so much for your work. And overall, thank you all for all the work that you've done this past assembly and for the next couple of weeks until the end. With that, are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we will move on to liaison / affiliate reports. If you're a liaison or affiliate, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no reports and seeing no old business, we will now move into a 5-minute caucus breakout.
In the middle of the meeting, absolutely no, sir. This is a caucus breakout. I will have you know. I didn't know that you could get spotlighted. That's fun. Also, hi Ryan. I'm losing pretty badly right now. I'm down by 5, but it's time to come back. My opponent just hit the black ball in the wrong hole, so I win by that technicality. Thank you, Stephen. I don't know. I don't like winning by such cheap methods, but it is the most clutch way. It happens more often than I'd like to admit, honestly. Freshman year me, way better than I am now, because I've been spending too much time on that beautiful masterpiece of engineering down there that we call Cabby, the DDR machine. And if anybody has an interest in learning how to do DDR, I strongly encourage you to come down here as soon as the meeting is over, and I would love to do that. It is a serious cardio workout. I'll cover all the costs. I'm going to be here for like 2 straight hours on Cabby. It's the best.
Did you say DDAR?
I think it's like DDR.
All right. We will now move into new business, starting with Bill 2015, funding for period toolkits and collaboration for Days for Girls. Chair Jordan, if you'd like to introduce this.
Yes, I'm going to yield my time to Representative Bose.
Aaron Bose at large. I think there's one person joining that could speak a little bit more as well. But to introduce, let me just pull it up on mine so I can see. Sorry. So Days for Girls has partnered with the Women's Empowerment Roundtable, and they came in to speak with us a couple of weeks ago, and it was such an informative and powerful roundtable meeting as well. They talked a lot about period poverty and the barriers for menstruators on campus. And they had released a survey, which many of you had responded to as well, which was very helpful. And the survey was basically looking to see those barriers for menstruators on campus. If you scroll down a little bit to the statistics, you can see some of the quantitative data that was captured. Kind of the most shocking to me was that 13% of respondents at University Park have missed class or work due to a lack of access to period products. So period poverty is very much real at University Park and within the community around us. If you scroll down to some of the more qualitative data as well, you can see some of the student testimonials specifically pointing to issues of finding period products, issues of bathrooms not housing them, financial problems, etc. And so Days for Girls has really launched into creating these period toolkits in order to house toolkits of pads and tampons within each of the academic colleges. As many of you know, the academic colleges are kind of widespread across campus. So while the hub right now does maintain the Ant Flow program, the hub's not always the most accessible and the most convenient spot to go to if you're in a hurry and need something in a certain part of campus. So basically, we are funding the program for an entire year with refills every other month. We're funding pads and tampons as well as marketing and promotional materials. The pads and tampons that we've chosen are all they're sustainable products. And we kind of dug around to make sure that we were finding the most sustainable products as well to keep that as a core mission of the project. And then the marketing and promotional materials are mainly like decals on the doors within the academic colleges. So they'll specifically be hosted within the Deans of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion offices within the colleges. And so while we're funding and we're providing that, Days for Girls will really be maintaining the project and also checking out for refills as well. Emma from Days for Girls is here, so I can yield her time if she has anything else to speak about.
No, you summed it up pretty perfectly. Thanks, Erin.
Awesome. Well, with that then, I guess we will stand for questions.
All right. Are there any questions for Representative Bose? Representative Reynolds?
Hi, first, thank you so much for doing this. It sounds from the statistics you shared like it's a really widespread issue, and I'm glad it's been addressed. So on that issue of like statistics and how widespread it is, how do you plan to continue getting this data to see what impact this initiative is having and how it can be improved? And also, how did you decide upon the location? And is there any thought into trying to have even more accessible locations like, say, buildings like the Buki building or around the hub and places where students tend to pass through pretty frequently?
I can yield to Emma again for that if you're okay with answering.
Yeah. So the needs analysis that we got the statistics from was just from the fall semester going into spring, and that's probably going to be a yearly project we look at every year and continue to pull those numbers and see if things are getting better, things are getting worse, and of course, getting bigger and bigger samples the more we work to promote the surveys. But this one was very successful. We got about 500 students responses, so it was a pretty good sample. And that will definitely be a yearly thing we look at doing. Location-wise, the dean's offices are spread all across campus. That's why we kind of took the Deans of Equity and Inclusion route. The Liberal Arts Dean is in Sparks, the College of Comm Deans in Carnegie. So they're kind of spread all across campus, and each student knows where kind of their college's hub is. And so they know they can go to their Dean of Equity and Inclusion for that. Other locations, I would love to expand to other places. This is kind of just the easiest way to make this happen kind of in the fastest way. Getting into Buki and getting into those buildings to hold products and bathrooms, a lot more admin hassle, and also a lot more people you have to talk to, and then you're bringing facilities into the whole deal if you're going directly in the bathrooms. But with the Deans of Equity and Inclusion, they have offices that are a safe space for students, and a lot of students know they're a safe space within their colleges. And they usually have kind of an open door policy. They have other products there, such as snacks, little things available for students. So as long as we'll advertise it properly, it should be an easy kind of accessible location for students. And also anyone, no matter what you identify as, can walk into that dean's office, and it's not necessarily just being in a specific bathroom. So it's very kind of much more accessible in this way, just to kind of do it from the starting point.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Representative Ron Sorensen, do you have a question?
Representative Ron Sorensen, hi. So I think that you did just answer my question. I was going to ask if these were going to be in all restrooms, like both gendered restrooms and like gender neutral restrooms. But you said that they were going to be in the dean's office, so that's different. Unless like that's not the only place that they'll be.
I think for now, this specific project, we're looking to house within the dean's offices, but something that we've been talking about with Days for Girls and specifically with Emma and also Jess, who's the president, is that hopefully this is just the beginning of the partnership between UPUA and Days for Girls. And after immediately seeing the results of the survey, we knew that there needs to be an immediate project. So that's why this is kind of the first thing that we're coming out with, but long-term goal is to definitely get more free menstrual products across campus in the most accessible ways possible.
All right, are there any other questions? Seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Chair Jordan?
Sarah Jordan at large. I just have two things. One, just thank you again for Days for Girls PSU for collaborating with us. Really excited to see this in progress here at campus. And then I also just want to, I guess, yield Stephen time for the remaining type 40, if possible.
Yep. I can. Okay, so I motion to amend the type 40 to $86,622.33.
All right, and since that taken is friendly, is there any other discussion? Representative Alexander?
Yeah, so the other thing that we discussed with Days for Girls was that we wanted to expand it to maybe places like the library or the BJC, but we run into issues with contracting. So this is another reason why this is going to be taking place in the colleges and not other high traffic areas on campus. I just wanted to reiterate that.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no other discussion, I will now close the floor. Since this is a bill, it does require a roll call vote. So Speaker Zong, when you are ready, you may start the roll call.
Arthur Kalor, Adeline Mishler, Alexander Wu, Amy Gary.
Yes.
Okay, for a second I thought I had myself muted because no one was saying anything. We're good. Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne Marie Round Sorensen,
Yes.
Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Brian Schultz, Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Flegel,
Yes.
Carter Gangle,
Yes.
Dan Risser, Emmanuel Almonte,
Yes.
Aaron Bowes,
Yes.
Ramark Miller,
Yes.
okay, Joshua Reynolds,
Yes.
Kaylee Quinnen, Cara DeLucio, Kelly Snyder, Kyle Quinn,
Yes.
Lakin Meter,
Yes.
Louis Richardson,
Yes.
Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre, Megan Dalo, Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Brungy, Rainier Foley Di Fiore, Raina Alexander,
Yes.
Refugio Lara. Okay, Ryan Lascalzo, Samantha Brown. Okay, Sarah Jordan,
Yes.
Siddhi Deshpande,
Yes.
Sophia Polillo, I vote yes. Sydney Gibbard,
Yes.
Sharu Shu.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the list again because I know there's some people with mic issues, but I'm also gonna call on people who were here for opening roll call but didn't answer the first time. So Adeline votes yes.
Yes.
Brian Schultz votes yes. Dan Risser, okay, Cara DeLucio, okay, Patty votes yes. And Refugio votes yes. Was anyone's name not called? Right, give us a second to go through the votes.
All right. And Bill 2015 funding for period toolkits in collaboration with Days for Girls PSU passes with a vote of 27-0 to 0. All right, we'll move on to line item B, which is Bill 2115 funding for hand sanitizer stations for Moving On 2021. Chair Jordan, if you'd like to introduce this.
Sarah Jordan at large. I'm also going to yield my time to Representative Bose. Moving on, liaison.
Erin Bose, Moving On liaison. I love introducing myself like that. Okay, so Moving On, for those of you that don't know, is one of the nation's largest student-run music festivals. They're most popular for their spring festival. However, they put on a fall festival in collaboration with SPA, and they also do the Battle Series, which highlights some of the Penn State students that are musicians, and the Spotlight Series as well, which is happening now. You should apply at movingon.org. But every single year, UPUA, which is one of the liaison and collaborative organizations, usually does some sort of collaboration funding wise, since we do have a seat on the executive board. In the past, it's been the Quench Buggy to provide water. We usually focus more on health and safety aspect, while ARSH usually does more of the promotional materials, and SPA helps fund additional music artists as well. With COVID hitting, we kind of reevaluated what the UPUA contribution would be this year. And after conversations throughout the entire year, we've kind of settled on hand sanitizer stations. So when talking with the Moving On advisor, we were kind of trying to figure out how many hand sanitizer stations that we would need, which is why we kind of ended up at the 15 quantity. And then we're also funding for the alcohol wipe rolls, as well as the bucket dispensers to put within the actual freestanding wipe dispensers. The company that we chose, TerraBoost, is a sustainable brand. If you go to CVS or if you go to any hospital or anything like that, they're the hospital grade CDC approved wipes. They're better for your hands than regular wipes. Been talking a lot with the TerraBoost about the makeup of the wipes. And so basically we'll be funding them. And also a good thing about this contribution this year from UPUA is that it's a long-standing project in the sense that the wipes aren't going to expire within a year. We can use them year after year. The dispensers are extremely sustainable and durable. So basically it would just be maintaining and rebuying some of the wipe rolls as needed. But this is definitely a contribution that Moving On would appreciate. And so with that, I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Representative Bose? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Chair Jordan?
Sarah Jordan at large. I just want to reiterate that this has been like a kind of discussion all year. So it wasn't one like taken lightly with everything going on. Even if Moving On like doesn't happen in the spring, like this will be able to be used for like many like places to come, even in the fall, as Aaron said, or even next spring as well. It won't like go to you or won't go to waste. And since Moving On has that storage space too, just kind of saying that they're going to have places to hold it for us. But also, as Aaron said, TerraBoost has been really, really, really nice and accommodating to us the whole entire year. They've been really excited to meet with us whenever we meet. So I'm really excited to work with them. Hopefully, maybe UPO will be able to work with them directly in the next few assemblies. But yeah, just want to sort of show my support for this bill.
All right, is there any other discussion? Chair Jordan?
Sorry, my hand was still raised, but type 40 as well.
Okay.
Yep. 40 updated would be $82,297.33.
May I have a second, just in the chat? It's very friendly, so that is fine. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing no other discussion, I will now close the floor. And with that, and again, as it is a bill, it does need to be voted on by roll call. So Speaker Zhang, when you're ready.
Okay. Artie Kaur, Adeline Mishler,
Yes.
Alexander Wu, Amy Gary,
Yes.
Anna Taylor,
Yes.
Anne-Marie Round Sorensen,
Yes.
Blake Tolliver,
Yes.
Ryan Schultz, Cameron McColgan,
Yes.
Kathy Minetti Zhao, Kara Flegel,
Yes.
Carter Gangle,
Yes.
Dan Risser, Emmanuel Almonte,
Yes.
Aaron Bose,
Yes.
John Mark Miller,
Yes.
Joshua Reynolds,
Yes.
Haley Quinnen, Cara DeLucio, Kelly Snyder, Kyle Quinn, Lincoln Meter,
Yes.
Louis Richardson, Marie Meisner,
Yes.
Maddie McIntyre, Megan Dalo, Najee Rodriguez,
Yes.
Noah Robertson,
Yes.
Patricia Brungy, She votes yes. Rainier Foley Di Fiore. Reina Alexander.
Yes.
Refugio Lara. Ryan Lascalzo votes yes. Samantha Brown. Sarah Jordan. Seti Deshpande.
Yes.
Sophia Polillo.
Yes.
I vote yes. Cindy Gibbard.
Yes.
Xiaoru Shi.
Yes.
Okay. Going back. Kyle.
Sorry, Stephen, I missed my name, but I vote yes.
No problem. So Sarah votes yes. Going back, Lewis votes yes, and Kyle votes yes. Was anyone's name not called?
All right, Bill 2115, funding for hand sanitizer stations for Moving On 2021 passes unanimously and specifically with a vote of 27-0-0. All right, and we'll move on to resolution 5415, graduate and professional school panel, and Representative Gibbard, if you'd like to introduce this.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, Sydney Gibbard, College of Engineering. So what we are planning on doing is hosting a graduate and professional student panel. The first one that we ever held, at least in UPUA history that we're aware of, was last year in the 14th Assembly. And it was actually one of the last in-person events that we got to hold before everything got shut down, but it was really successful. We had 6 members of GPSA come in and they spoke about a wide range of things, like things that you don't necessarily think about when you think about graduate school, including, how do you balance mental health? How do you balance your social life and your academic life as a graduate student, especially because a lot of them live alone here in State College. And also, how do you, like, what do your classes look like? Are they lecture style? Are they one-on-one? How much time do you spend in class versus doing research, and just really getting down into that like nitty gritty of what graduate school looks like. And so this year, I reached out to Alex Zhao initially, and we talked a little bit and discussed potentially like expanding it to not just graduate school, but also having professional school representation on the panel as well. And also reaching out to multicultural student organizations within the graduate school, not just getting all of our representatives from GPSA. And so that was, I didn't even know a lot about a lot of these organizations within the graduate school. I thought that it was really cool to reach out to them. And so when we reached out to them, our meeting was super successful. And I kind of went through like what our questions were that we asked people last year, and how we're looking to expand this year. And we decided that we would have one representative from each organization who was interested and felt like that they had a nomination who was able to attend this meeting. I will amend the day and time once we get to discussion. It wasn't finalized until today at noon, but what we'll be talking about is developing relationships with your advisor, admissions, applications, and also giving advice to students who may have already been accepted to graduate school. And also if anyone has any advice on what that has looked like within a COVID sense. I know a lot of students are hesitant to go into research and go into those labs during COVID. So giving a little bit of background about that. Also, funding is a big thing. A lot of students aren't aware of the opportunities that there are, especially at Penn State, but also at other universities for funding and how you can typically get your graduate school paid for. So that's another thing that they'll be talking about. Last year we had pretty diverse representation as far as age. We had like one student who was a graduate student that was like 50 or 60 or something. And he spoke a little bit about like how he was able to contextualize his graduate school career within the workplace and how he saw it as a supplement to his education, whereas other people kind of saw it as like that launching platform for them. And it was going to get them to where they needed to go in the first place. So definitely a lot of different representation and perspectives that we're hoping to have on this graduate panel. I actually already have the list of all the panelists that will be sitting on. Still waiting to hear back from maybe 1 or 2 organizations. But yeah, I think it's really exciting. Academic Affairs doesn't get to host a lot of like interactive events. Like we have tabling where we hand out books and stuff like that, but this is like a chance for students to learn from us about the resources there are at Penn State and also how they can kind of propel their career moving forward. So yeah, with that, I will stand for questions if anyone has any.
Are there any questions for Representative Gibbard? All right, seeing no questions, is there any discussion? Representative Gibbard.
Yeah, Cindy Gibbard, College of Engineering. I motion to change March XX, like in line 35. It's going to be March 22nd from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And I also just wanted, oh, sorry.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's very friendly.
Okay. I also just wanted to say like that we've been talking a lot about how to make sure that to prevent Zoom bombing and stuff. And so it will be held in a Zoom webinar format and we'll have questions prepared. And I'm also going to hope to have like some representation from Academic Affairs at the panel where we can kind of plant questions to get questions going in at the panel. And students will be able to ask questions through the like question answer box, like which is not just like through a chat, but kind of similar to Faculty Senate, if any of you have ever attended that. And if any of you have any like ideas for organizations to reach out to here at Penn State, I'd love to hear them, like undergraduate organizations. I've been thinking about like research-based organizations that have students who are like part of a population who are extremely interested in graduate school that I'd like to reach out to. But I'm always looking for ideas, so I would really appreciate that. And sorry, I know I only have like 2 minutes, but I keep going. The last thing I was going to say is that I would really appreciate if like a lot of people came out because this is one of the last events of the assembly that is hosted within the assembly, March 22nd, and election day is March 31st. So it's really a great time to kind of like finally engage with the stuff that UPUA puts on. So yeah, I'll send out graphics and reminders frequently. Thank you.
All right, Representative Bo.
Erin Bose at large. I just wanted to speak fully in support of this resolution and the event itself. Last year, it was such a great event and it was so informative. So I really, really encourage everybody to not only promote the event, but show up yourself because I guarantee that you'll learn something.
All right, is there any other discussion? I do see a motion to vote by unanimous consent. And I didn't see any hands up, but is there a second to that motion? I do see seconds. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right, and with that, Resolution 5415, Graduate and Professional School Panel passes unanimously. Can't tell I've had trouble saying that word. All right, let's move on to a report by the Chief Justice of the Judicial Board, Chief Justice Saya.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a great week. Just some updates from the judicial side of things. So registration period is still in full swing. That ends on Friday, which is March 12th at 5 p.m. And to go further along with that, checking out the Twitter at UPUA_elections, we released the Google Forms regarding questions for the executive debates and legislative town halls. I can speak a little bit into the formatting for the legislative town halls right now due to the new nature of them and the amount of candidates. So each representative candidate will have 5 minutes to speak, However, they will get a list of the top questions that came within that form, and they can choose to address those or not. It's up to them with those 5 minutes. And also, the Judicial Board met on Monday and voted on the policy 1315, which was the time limits, deemed that it was fair and equitable. And we will be meeting again on Sunday to release the full candidate list, as well as Monday to go further into election matters. And I'm open for any questions if anyone has anything.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice Saya? All right, seeing no questions, we will move on to executive reports. If you are an executive director with a report, please raise your hand. All right, seeing no executive reports, we'll move on to report by the Speaker of the Assembly, Speaker Zhang.
Hi, everyone. Happy to say that the two most important things on my agenda for this past week was that we made some progress on some of the long-term initiatives that I've been meaning to kind of get some progress into. So next Monday, I have a meeting set up with Carla Glisson from the Office of Student Aid to discuss potential collaborations between UPUA and the Office to Fund Students who advocate with UPUA. Specifically, we're looking to potentially partner with the office to create a program for community service-based work study, which I think, if done correctly, would be a really cool way for students to be funded for the UPUA experience based on their FAFSA determined contributions and need, just as a way for people to be able to contribute to student government. I know that it's always been an issue in terms of financial concerns to say that not all students are able to really participate in UPUA because of the time commitment and otherwise maybe having to take up other part-time jobs to support their education. So whether this is going to be the end-all be-all solution, or whether we find some other way to go through it, it would be super cool for students to really find a sustainable avenue of receiving stipends or other forms of payment for UPUA, and just for all the work that they put out, just to continue supporting students and increasing the availability of UPUA for a lot of different students. Additionally, I'm hoping to have a meeting set within the next 2 weeks between myself, Representative Shi, and Representative Wu on continuing the Global Programs Translation Initiative. It got a little bit bigger than I expected, so we're bringing in IT and also the Office of the Controller because we're looking at the feasibility of doing like a large-scale translation across the different web pages for Penn State, but also like the feasibility of translating legal documents and to what extent there might be liabilities with that. And all of that. And yeah, so I'm super excited for those two initiatives. Other than that, working on transition stuff as well. I'll also likely try to host a few working sessions for people to drop in for any last minute bylaw/constitutional changes like Zach is doing for exec. Constitutional changes need, I believe, 7 days in advance to come to the floor, which means that next Wednesday would be the latest for any constitutional changes. But bylaw changes could be submitted theoretically until next Sunday, the 21st. So if you have any ideas in terms of what you want to see fixed or amended about Constitution or bylaws, please reach out to me. I'll be posting some of those dates in Teams when I have my schedule down and find some free spots in my time. Additionally, I created a link where people can just submit anonymous feedback on what they thought about UPUA this year, specifically what you liked, what you didn't like, what you wish you understood earlier, what you wish you had some kind of transition documents for, any other resources to just kind of guide this year's leadership and moving forward and saying, hey, like here's something that we didn't maybe think about last year that we'd love to bring in for next year. So I'm going to send that link in the Zoom right now. If you want to just save it or open it up, feel free. It's completely anonymous. None of the questions are required. It just asks for kind of like some ideas and what you liked and didn't like. You're not obligated to fill out either, but it would be a great help, especially because this year has been so different. We've brought in so many different positions, so many different ideas. There's so many new representatives in Assembly, and it would be really helpful to kind of get to know, we've historically been almost like you're in 1 year and then you just keep rolling through UPUA. This year, we've really disrupted a lot of those norms. So really seeing how can we support new representatives for future years as well? And also how can we support returning representatives in terms of transition documents and in terms of trainings and retreats and stuff like that for the beginning of the next assembly as well. So yeah, that's really all I've got going on this week, and I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions for speakers on? All right, seeing no questions, we will move on to comments of the committee, starting with Chair Jordan with facilities.
Sarah Jordan at large. Okay, so my report this week, finally me, Representative Zhao and Representative Dalo are going to meet early next week to kind of put graphics together for the virtual drug awareness and advocacy campaign that hopefully pushed out probably the following week, right before the end of the assembly. I'm just kind of letting everyone know of the new implementation that is in Eisenhower, as well as just spreading awareness throughout campus, also downtown. For those, I've said this every week and I'll keep saying it until the process is done, but the hub space allocation meeting has been meeting throughout this past 2 months at this point. So right now the organizations are sending out the second phase of it, which is any org can apply. So if you have an organization that may want office space, you can fill out the application and we'll be looking through them in the next few weeks. There was a transportation meeting yesterday. Sadly, my last one as chair, which was very bittersweet because I've been saying that for 2 years now. They're an awesome group, but just some updates there. They did launch the Zip car. So that is our car share enterprise. If you may want to rent a car, you can go to the spaces for that. It's one outside Pollock and also on the west side. I forget the exact lot, but I can get back to you guys about that. Exciting news, we were awarded the Bike Friendly Campus as the gold medalist. Yay for us. So thanks to everyone who filled out that survey and beginning of the semester. We kind of did that. And then the micromobility RFPs, so that will still be kind of in the process of hopefully launching it the next, like this fall coming up. So they're working really hard to kind of get us one for them because of COVID, things to be shifted around. But other than that, facilities, we will meet on Sunday at 12. Can't wait to see you all there, but that's all I have, and I will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Jordan? All right, seeing no questions, we'll move on to Chair Mishler with Student Life.
Yay. Hi, everybody. So I with this, tomorrow is a wellness day. So very unfortunately, we have to cancel committee. So stay posted in the teams how you can engage with the committee this week and enjoy your wellness day. However, if you are coming out to our, and I hope you are, many of you are being student facilitators, and I really appreciate that, to our event tomorrow, or our event, the Hub Galleries event, hosted in Alumni Hall. Many of you should have received that email this week with all the necessary instructions and preparation that you need. If you feel underprepared or anything like that, please reach out to me, but that email does have a lot of critical information and you all should have gotten that. So 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and 8 p.m., make sure you're pre-registered. And if you have a duty, make sure you're showing up when you are supposed to. And again, just let me know if I can help you anyway. I will be there at the 6 o'clock session, so see you then. I'm super excited for that. Also, thank you so much for those who attended our event on yesterday. The weeks are so odd. That was a great event. Thank you for the executive folks for showing out. It was great to have you guys there and present and collaborating in that event as well. So our SVAP roundtable meets on Friday at 10 a.m., I believe. So please get in touch with myself or Sydney or Kara DeLuzio if you want to come to that. Here, Lex is coming, so I'm super excited about that.
Student Fee Board is starting the voting process on Friday. So that in that first hour, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if you're passionate about any of those issues or how the fee board should be voting on any of those allocations, we'd love to hear you at 8 a.m. You can also fill out a form on the website, as we know that that time's not super accessible. Let me know if you have any questions on that, always. Going through contracting right now for our Sue's event, as well for our Chanel Miller event, prepping questions, scripts, all the necessary components that go into programming, really full throttle on those. Let us know if you want to be involved. And thanks so much to the reps and the executive members who are helping plan and prep. I'm super excited to see those come to fruition. If I can be helpful in any way, please reach out in the teams. I'm so sorry I didn't have the foresight to realize that this is a wellness day. So if you planned on bringing any sort of resolutions or bills, reach out to me and we can do an e-vote on that. We'll make sure that that gets to the steering committee on Sunday. Check your teams before the week break. And that's it. Enjoy.
All right. Are there any questions for Chair Mishler? Alrighty, seeing none, I will now move on. I don't think Chair Risser is here, so Vice Chair Meter, if you have anything.
Hey everyone, not much to report from Gov Affairs. I know this week we should be meeting with Laura Shadle. Actually, it will not be this week because we have a wellness day, so it will be next week. Other than that, that is really all we have to report. Thank you.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions, we'll move on to Chair Barungi.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say thank you so much for passing the graduate student panel resolution tonight. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an amazing event. So if you can all help us advertise that and come out on the 22nd, that would be great. Not too much from AAC, just prepping for the next faculty senate meeting, which is going to be March 16th. And just want to let you guys all know, so it doesn't seem odd when we do kind of enter the transitionary period, that all the college reps right now who are in the 15th assembly will also still be serving as faculty senators or student senators in faculty senate, even at the last meeting in April. So that's pretty typical for you guys to still continue to serve in those roles. So just plan to attend those meetings whether or not you're still in your college representative role. We hope to write a legislation to bring up at Faculty Senate about proposing the possibility of adding climate education in freshman seminars. So that should be coming to the floor sometime soon. I think we might just do it as kind of like a one-sheeter when we bring it to the Faculty Senate, but we'll have discussion on that and see where they're at with that and let you guys know. But that's really all I have. Please enjoy your Wellness Day and let me know if you have any questions as always.
Are there any questions for Chair Barungi? All right, seeing no questions, we will now have Chair Rodriguez.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's such a pleasure to be with you all tonight. Just real quick, I want to thank everyone for their assistance in the school supply packs. Special shout out to Vice Chair Meter, Representative Reynolds, Kohler, Hope, everybody that was there. I appreciate you. Cameron McColgan, I appreciate you. Sam, all you guys are all great. Carter, thank you for all coming. Special shout out to everybody. We prowled in the hub and we gave those school supply packs out. Did all of them want one? Maybe not, but they got one, and that's what matters. So we did change some lives. Really exciting things to continue moving on with. First of all, if you are interested in picking one up, we do have some extra. The remainder of the school supply packs will be given out to Lions Pantry. So I already emailed the director, so he is aware of our transportation of these boxes to Lions Pantry for the upcoming school year. So if you have a car that you want to volunteer, let me know. I will reward you in some way, probably Starbucks. Next, I want to thank everyone who has assisted with the banner initiatives right now. As Lexi did say, we are currently in talks with Brian and of course other university leaders on the next steps. We're having a meeting on Friday to kind of go into more detail about the messaging. And we're having strategic communications go over kind of the graphics and what we want to see exemplified. I'll be sending out an email tonight to Dr. Griffin and his team for progress on the Center for Health Equity to schedule a time to meet regarding his meeting with UHS administration, basically the steering of UHS and seeing where we can go from there. We are also in the works of kind of creating the initial outline of a report for the Just Here Now and Wally triplet proposals to be given to the hub. So that's something that we're really excited in looking into to do for the future and sustainability of that project. So really exciting things to come. I also wanted to give a brief mention. Representative Gangle has redistributed the scope of the project that was originally the expansion of gender neutral bathrooms to be the addition of a diversity, equity, and inclusion tab on the UP interactive map on Penn State Go. So that's the first step. I really want to commend them on their work, and of course, everyone else who's been working on those initiatives. Keep up the great work. I will see you on Friday. Be there or be square. We have a surprise scheduled for you that will be helmed by Vice Chair Kleur and Hope. So we are excited to see that. And please let me know if you have any questions. Contact me whenever. Also, huge shout out to Representative Alexander and Kleur for kind of collaborating on the graphics for student disability resources, and Representative Gibbard for assisting in our meeting and our eventual roundtable that we hope to hold very soon. Thank you all. Have a great night. Stay safe and happy early Friday.
All right, are there any questions for Chair Rodriguez? All right, seeing none, we will now move on to comments on the good of the order. Are there any comments for the good of the order? Speaker Zhang?
Yeah, Stephen Zhang at large. So Representative Alex Wu asked me to share this with everyone, but he has a virtual cello recital coming up this Friday, and he thought it'd be really cool to invite everyone to attend. It's going to start at 7:30, and I can drop the link for everyone to save in Zoom right here. But for those of you who don't know, he's a cello major, I believe, and he is really freaking good at it. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see him perform, but it's amazing. Yeah, I'll drop in the Teams as well. Here it is in the Zoom if you wanted to save that link. But it's going to be this Friday, 7:30. He'd love the support to see everyone there, virtually, of course. But at the same time, I think it's always a treat to hear him perform. So yeah, hope to see everyone there.
All right, Representative Lascalzo.
Ryan Lascalzo, Line Pride Representative. I sent this in the email, but hopefully I'm going to have a policy coming up next week, amending the bylaws. It's going to just be like some revisions to how liaisons work and affiliates work, essentially. Most of the stuff is fairly simple, just clarifying things that we already do, but some of the other stuff also is like, changing some procedures. So, and because it's bylaws, you can't amend it on the floor. So please contact me beforehand if you have any issues. Currently, the only person who's contacted me was Tim. He's not even in the organization anymore, but he contacted me to say he thought it was, he liked it and he thought it looked good. But yeah, if you guys have any issues, reach out. That's it.
Representative Reynolds.
Hi, Joshua Reynolds. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Najee for the project she put on. That was an awesome project, and it was really fun to be a part of that, and the students really appreciated that. So I just wanted to say shout out to him for that awesome work.
Nice background. It took me a second to see what that was. All right, are there any other comments for the good of the order? Representative Meter.
I don't know if anyone said this, and I'm not in charge of it, but merch order forms are due tonight if you want a quarter zip.
Thank you. All right, are there any other comments for the good of the order? All right. Seeing none and knowing that Speaker Zong has taken closing roll call, this meeting is adjourned at 9:06 p.m. Have a wonderful rest of the night and rest of the week, and I'll see you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Another delightful 2-hour meeting. Nice and quick.